Mexico has been taken care of better by Donald Trump than by any living human being. And we say, hey, you're fired, get out. We've been ripped off by everybody over the years. They're not ripping us off anymore. China has been paying us billions and billions of dollars. Until I got here, they never paid this country 10 cents.
Good morning, Americans. This is Eric from Make America Great Again Truth Channel. And Jericho Green, I know I just totally copied you there, but I did it because you're awesome. Promise I will not do that again. So this is it. Quick intro for the very last 2016 election night video. But you know what they say? You should save the best for last. And there is nothing more despicable, nothing more disgraceful than these anti-Trump RINO Republicans. Now on election night, each of these various networks, they had their panels, and the Republicans were usually outnumbered like what, 6-1, 8-1, something like that. You would think for the one Republican they would have, it would at least be someone who is going to vote for Trump, but no. In many cases, it was one of these crybaby RINO Republicans. So here's the top 5 biggest crybaby RINOs of election night. Make sure you subscribe for upcoming epic 2020 videos, and in addition, new merchandise at MAGATRUTHCHANNEL.com. Beautiful new gray Security Well Firepower shirts, and $1 from every shirt sold will go towards President Trump's 2020 campaign. Enjoy.
I mean, he was undeniably embracing racially charged language. If you land on it as a strategy, it's incredibly cynical and destined for failure if the only people you want to lift out of economic despair are white people. I mean, none of us have been in a situation before where en masse, the nominee of our party, stood in contrast to our values and our ideas, and then there was the little character problem that you bring up. I mean, nobody dealt with it perfectly because no one had to deal with it before. The policies you mentioned are appalling. I mean, and I think a lot of Republicans, that was where some of the divide with Paul Ryan came from after the Muslim ban. I mean, the two that you named, the mass deportation force and the banning of Muslims, most Republicans said were not only not in line with Republican values, they were un-American. So I think in terms of obstructing those two policies, there might be a bipartisan effort to say, well, maybe. So, I don't know. Maybe. Hope springs eternal. Right. We're in the shank of the night. But those two policies are appalling. I have never tried to normalize Donald Trump. I didn't, I have been forthcoming. We've had a national conversation about my 15 months of therapy. I mean, I didn't vote for him. But I am just dismayed and sort of stunned that he continues to defy every convention of politics.
He has one.
I think that people's tolerance for all the unsavory things that came out of Donald Trump's mouth. I mean, he was undeniably embracing racially charged language, undeniably misogynistic language. Talking about grabbing a woman in the genitals is disqualifying for any other person in any other year. I did not vote for him and could never have voted for someone who said the things that he said, who banned an entire religion.
Those are very unfortunate appeals, not to the best of us, but the worst of us. Well, look, I think Donald Trump's doing much better than I thought he would. I'm not a Trump guy, so I don't find that encouraging. I think that Donald Trump ran a campaign that certainly doesn't have much to do with why I came into the Republican Party. I was a Bush guy. I felt comfortable standing in this race with the last 2 Republican presidents and the last Republican nominee. It's an incredibly difficult situation. Having worked with Speaker Ryan in the Romney campaign, I think that Donald Trump would be, as he has said, his least likely favorite candidate to win Republican nomination and then the presidency. It's a very difficult situation, and I was wrong about how Trump would do tonight. I thought that he would be doing much worse. So, I'm from the Republican Party that was anti-Putin and wasn't for 45% or 35% trade barriers. I think what's undervalued here is, Donald Trump went out and said a lot of things that we as a society have decided should be unacceptable. He called for a religious test to enter the United States. He called Mexicans who are coming to the United States rapists.
Sorry, I didn't.
And this is something I think is not a positive sign. Listen, I think that it's troubling to these economic markets because I think it's going to be bad for American jobs and business, and others don't disagree. So I really am very, very hesitant to attribute Donald Trump's success to economic anxiety. I think it is something much deeper. Personally, I feel it's not the best side of America. And I think now the inability to imagine Donald Trump winning, and I certainly fall into that category, has greatly aided his ability. I think that those are very unfortunate appeals, not to the best of us, but the worst of us. And in my world, it would have been better for Republican leadership to call that out and to make it clear that this was unacceptable. I think that Donald Trump, should have happened more in the primary.
So we don't know who's going to win. I'm following my friends and texting. They're over-panicking, I would say. Even in this campaign, the bigotry was not hidden. I mean, Donald Trump wanted to ban Muslims. I mean, and he said these things about Mexicans and rapists and all that. It was not hidden. There's clearly a racial element in this election and this result, which we're seeing tonight. And we're seeing big, like I'm looking at Michigan now, Trump's doing a lot better than Mitt Romney did, and because of white rural voters. And I'd hate to see it reduced just to race, though clearly there was a racial element. Yes, I'm calling this election for Vladimir Putin. He's having a good night. No, listen, we don't know who's going to win. I'm following my friends and texting. They're over-panicking, I would say. It looks like as I say, keep saying, we're looking at Michigan, we're looking at Wisconsin, especially Michigan. It's very close, and we could hang down to that. But the guy, this is my personal opinion, doesn't know about policy. And doesn't know about the facts you need to know to govern, and that will be an interesting phenomenon. If we decide this thing was motivated by racism and bigotry, then something evil has just been happened by 48.2% of Americans. That is one possible explanation. I'm open to it. And I personally think the things he said should have disqualified him for the presidency a million times over.
Yep. David Brooks.
Yeah, well, while I'm trying to be a professional pundit here on TV, I have a lot of friends and family members who are extremely upset. I mean, I'm just getting like a lot of people texting me who are completely bereft, weeping, and it's tough to know what to say in these circumstances if you were a Clinton partisan. I guess the two things, we should have faith in the country, that it's a resilient country, and if your guy didn't win or your candidate didn't win, things do survive. And then the second thing, and just in moments of turmoil, just rest for a moment. Don't try to swim. Let the world harden for a second, and there'll be plenty of time to react. But I'm just struck by my friends and family members who are completely, some of them devastated tonight.
But Donald Trump will obviously use the presidency to enrich himself. That is the process of the unraveling of American civil institutions. I mean, I joked on Twitter a minute ago, but it wasn't a joke, that on the bright side, 227 years, a pretty good run for a republic.
And great for a TV show.
But this is an election in which there's been Russian penetration of an American election. This is an election in which the man who may be the winning candidate made clear that he was not necessarily going to abide by the result. We've seen incitement to violence on a scale that we have not seen since the Reconstruction era you mentioned. But Donald Trump will obviously use the presidency to enrich himself. There are going to be a lot of Trump casinos and resorts in a lot of authoritarian regimes. There's going to be one in Malaysia, there's going to be one in Russia, there's going to be one in China, a bunch in China, because what better way to influence the president than to put money directly into his pocket through his licensing arrangements. It is really impossible to be sufficiently apprehensive. And he's also someone who accepts none of the usual ethical constraints. Again, no one knows what his business interests are. It can't be stressed enough, the president is not actually even legally bound by conflict of interest laws, so he wouldn't even be breaking the law if he's self-enriched. I mean, he can't take bribes. That would be outright bribes. But what's a bribe? If Malaysia suddenly discovers a need for Trump-branded properties, is that a bribe? He also is impulsive, erratic. He, as you say, trusts nobody outside of his own family, and he's got a vindictive streak a mile wide. So it is going to be a euphoric early moment, and then when things begin to go wrong, as they always do, I don't know that he's got the resources to cope with that. When Donald Trump's vision of how the American security system works looks much more like a predatory 19th century state, where allies will, instead of allies being subsidized, allies will be taxed. The things that Donald Trump flunked were not hard.
Así que mi gente, levántense y voten.
My best friends. Her name is Ana Maria Gonzalez. She was born in Venezuela, as was her husband. Both of them are U.S. citizens. They are the parents of a 9-year-old girl named Alesia, who wakes up in the middle of the night fearing what will happen to her parents if Donald Trump is elected. That's the kind of fear that Hispanic children are having all over this country. I am not making this up. That's why I am giving the names. I have people who call me and tell me that their son-in-laws, their daughter-in-laws are waking up with bad dreams at night at the fear of what a Donald Trump presidency could mean for Latinos. Yeah. That's why you're seeing those numbers. It's not the outreach efforts of Hillary Clinton. It's not the, ground troop operation of Hillary Clinton. The reason Latinos are flocking to the polls is because we've had it with Donald Trump punching us over and over and over again for the last 17 months. We've had it with, with the assaults, with the attacks, with the insults, and we are flocking to be the folks that stand between him and the presidency of the United States.
So I had to...
The percentage of Latinos voting has been ticking up. It's gone from 8% to 10%, it's been ticking up. But also the percentage of Latinos voting for the Republican Party has been ticking down. Donald Trump is going to get historic low numbers amongst Latinos. He's going to be probably in the teens. If he breaks 20, it's a good night for him with Latinos. And it would be sweet, sweet justice if after everything he has said, after every attack he has made against Latinos, after he has thrown out Latino anchors from press events, after he hasn't done any outreach, after he has questioned a judge's citizenship, after he has called Mexicans rapists, it would be sweet, sweet justice if tonight it was the Latino vote that defeated Donald Trump. Así que mi gente, levántense y voten.
I do want to turn now to Ana Navarro. You are a Republican strategist who very clearly and vocally came out and said you would not vote for Donald Trump. In fact, you voted for Hillary Clinton.
I did.
Your reaction to this bombshell tonight?
Well, look, I don't like Donald Trump as a person. I think he inserted division and hostility into this debate. What we saw tonight is that we are two Americas. We are a white America, and we are a non-white America. We are an educated America, and we are the non-educated America.